Hello, and welcome back to Stabler and Friends. I'm Stabler, and today in about 10-15 minutes, I'll have a couple friends. We got Justin, one of my regulars, one of my right-hand men, my co-captains. Justin Stevens is joining us, and we also have somebody who's going to the Rose Bowl this weekend. Diehard Utes fan, almost diehard to a fault, a little biased if you ask me, so we'll get into that, but he's going to talk with us. He went last year, I believe, and he's going to give us kind of a rundown and itinerary of things that you can do at the Rose Bowl. I'm really excited for today. First time in a while, getting back into this, trying to get my groove back. Gonna take it a little different direction. I can swear if I want now. I said I don't care who's listening. I don't think my grandma's listening, and she's the only person I give a shit about hearing me swear. So it's time to be myself. That's the feedback that I got from my squad of people when they listen to this podcast. Is it sounds a little robotic, so I'm trying to spice it up, get back to being myself, having some fun with this. All right, what are we going to talk today about? We got a little bit to catch up on. This is my first show in a while. I'm not going to go all the way back to my last show, but recently, let's start with basketball. I mean, Luka Doncic. Anybody watching him? Superstar. Last 4 games, let me give you a rundown. 50 points, 32 points, 60 points, 35 points. And on top of that, combine about 21 rebound game. He's got 9 to 13 assists every game. The kid's unbelievable. He's probably on the worst supporting cast team I've ever seen, where he just has to basically control the whole team, control the whole game. They've won, I think, 5 in a row. I'm 99% sure it's 5 in a row. I looked back at who they've been playing recently. They've beaten the Rockets twice, the Knicks. They came back from like the most incredible comeback of all time. I think it was like 35 seconds. They were down 13 points or something like that, came back. And then so let's see, they beat Timberwolves as well. So I mean, they seem to be getting a groove on. Luka seems like the man. This is my hot take right now: is I don't see Luka ever winning a championship. I love watching him. I think he's a lot of fun, but there are just NBA players in this league who are unbelievable that I don't think will ever win a championship. There's some people that just have the talent, but it just doesn't click. And the reason I'm starting to think this is because let's go back to when they had Kristaps Porzingis on their team. That to me is a match made in heaven. Like you got an outside shooter that can also get in the paint. You got Luke on the outside. They're both spot up shooters. They can get dirty if they need to, but we're getting to the point where that didn't work out. And Porzingis is coming out in this interview just saying that they weren't the right fit, saying that, oh, he's a great player, but I just wasn't the right fit for what they need. And now I'm starting to think, like, what do they need? Like, what would it be? What would it take for Luka to get a second or possibly a third that will be their championship team? I don't know if it's in Dallas or if he has to go somewhere else. I think like a Nikola Jokic might be a good combo, but at the same time, like, he's a better Porzingis, right? Like, so is that not going to be a fit either, even though it looks amazing on paper? Other controversy I read about in my hiatus is since I don't know if you guys know, if you listen to the news other than just this podcast, but Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert left the Jazz. So looks like the Jazz at the start of the season, we're going to be tanking. We're going to try and get Victor Wembanyama. Nobody can pronounce that last name yet. It's like a Antetokounmpo. Eventually we'll all understand how to say it. It'll be natural to us, but I'm going to call him Wembanyama for now. Reminds me of King of the Hill. But tanking for him or that Scoot Johnson. But the Jazz are surprisingly decent this year. They're right in the mix of things. They came back down to earth after a strong start, but they're putting up fights every night. They're fun to watch. They get enough offense to get me free Arby's the next day, every single game, pretty much. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you get the Jazz app and the Jazz score over 111 points, you get a free classic roast beef sandwich at Arby's the next day. You don't have to buy anything else. There's no purchase necessary. You just say, hey, I want my classic Arby's. And if you're a sleazebag, I've thought about it, but I haven't done it. But if you're a real sleazebag, they don't scan it. You can just go through the drive-through line again when you're hungry and say, I'd like my thing. And then here's my app. Just take a look at it and they give you a free classic sandwich. This is how I'm going to start living, maybe, just so I don't have to have a job. I can just continue to podcast and live off Arby's for free. So go Jazz, go. But the controversy I was getting to was Donovan Mitchell came out and said a few things about Rudy, said they both wanted to win, but they had different ways of winning, ideas of how to win, and it just didn't work out. But like he said, I don't hate the guy. I'm fine with him. It's not like a we'll never talk to each other kind of thing, but they both went their separate ways. Seems like Donovan's really shined. He's averaging, I think, over 30 points a game, looking really good with the Cavs, and the Timberwolves, who gave up a lot to the Jazz for Rudy Gobert. His numbers have dipped immensely. I think he's under 1 block per game, which is his strength. He's not getting the rebounds. Kind of reminds me, I don't know if it's just a system thing, but it just kind of reminds me that you can't really win, it feels like, with these big guys that can't spread the floor. For a while you can when they're like in their prime, like let's say like Andre Drummond, when he was getting 20 points and 20 boards a game. Yeah, absolutely, you want that guy on the court. But now Rudy's numbers, it's just either not fitting with the system, or it's just not, the NBA is not for him. And I love Rudy, but man, there's sometimes I just watch these slow centers that just get in the league because they're tall, and it drives me insane. Like, I was never that great at basketball. I could shoot a little bit, I could dribble okay, but I could never make like a basketball team in junior high. But all of a sudden, like, I just look over and this most uncoordinated kid is playing starting center, because he's 6'5" when all of us are still like 5'8", you know. And I went to the games and I just watched him get rebound after rebound, offensive rebound, his own rebound, because he just couldn't make the basket. And I don't know, that's not fun basketball to me. I love Rudy Gobert. I think he's great for the state of Utah. He had a lot of loyalty, he had a lot of heart. I just don't see his game improving or transitioning to a team that could need him, other than when he decides to become kind of a backup ring chaser down the road, and then he could be a definite like minutes eater for a star team. But he can't be your number 2, or maybe even your number 3 if you want to be successful, in my opinion. Rudy also came out the other day and said that he had issues with Donovan. Things just never seemed the same. Kind of disappointing. You think, what if COVID didn't happen? I know that's kind of what started it off, was Rudy bopping the mic, being all silly, getting COVID. It was a serious thing. Nobody knew what was going on. We all had our opinions of what was going on, but none of us knew exactly what was going on. And we all argued. It was a scary time, and it just seemed to never be able to mend for those guys. So, yeah, I just wish the best for Rudy. Maybe we could trade a couple of the draft picks that they gave us, like not all of them, just like maybe like a second round and a first round, and we'll just take him back. You know, he can back up Walker Kessler. And no, I'm reaching on that one. That's just me reaching. Let's see what else has been going on in this world. NFL. I want to talk about my boy Tua Tagovailoa. Just suffered another concussion. This is a serious thing for me, guys. Like, I'm a diehard Dolphins fan. Like, I want them to win so bad that I'm in a toxic relationship and they let me down every year. But I'm to the point where I've seen Tua get thrown down 3 different times and not look right at all, especially the one where his fingers crinched up. I don't know how concussions work, but I think you minimum have to shut him down for the season. I don't care if we miss the playoffs because of it. Like, this guy's health is way more important. And maybe even his career. Maybe it just needs to shut down. I'd hate for a Junior Seau situation or something like that with the head trauma that causes depression, suicidal thoughts, anything damaging, you know, like it's just horrible to think about. I know that the NFL does a decent job here and there on monitoring concussions. They definitely fucked this one up with Tua, but I think we still have a chance to try and make it as right as possible. And so that's setting them down for at least the season and reevaluate. I had such high hopes for the Dolphins. I started believing in them. I try not to because I don't want to get my hopes up. It reminds me of MJ in that last Spider-Man movie. Like if you never get your hopes up, you'll never be disappointed. That's where I'm at with my sports teams. Is I just don't want to be disappointed anymore. So I'm just like, yeah, I've seen this episode before. Oh, the Packers in December. Mm-hmm. Yep, I know Rodgers is going to pull out a win somehow and make the playoffs, and all the Packers fans are going to be happy, and I'm going to be miserable with the Lions losing to the Panthers when they had the playoffs in their hands. They controlled their own destiny. Like teams that I like, that's just the way it goes. And teams that I dislike, they'll always find a way to get back on top. I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's scripted. I'm starting to think that it might be scripted, but that's just conspiracy theories by me. Just playing, but that is in the back of my mind a little bit. Yeah, so Dolphins lost 4 in a row. They need to win out if they want to make the playoffs. Collapsing teams around the league right now. The Titans are falling apart. Jaguars are on the rise. Trevor Lawrence starting to look like the quarterback we thought he might be. But yeah, the Titans, they lost last night. I know they were shorthanded, no Henry, no Tannehill. But I just feel like that team doesn't really have much of a direction going on, where the Jaguars are on the rise. So that's kind of fun to see that, a little bit of change over there. I'm thinking, talking about Derrick Henry, I'm thinking, man, he probably cost a few people some championships this week. This week is fantasy football championships. And a lot of leagues that I'm in have Derrick Henry in the championship game. I think all 3 of the leagues that I'm in had Derrick Henry. Yeah, just checked it out in my head. That's correct. So now they're all having to play shorthanded. Another player leaving fantasy team shorthanded is Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, 2 very fast quarterbacks to get you a lot of fantasy points. Doesn't look like they're playing this week. So pretty crazy. We'll talk more playoffs when it gets closer. I do want to talk about Russell Wilson. I don't know what happened to him. Like I can't figure it out. I mean, he was a great quarterback in my opinion. I mean, top notch, made good looks, could always make the throw. He held the ball pretty long. He's one of the longer holders from snap to throw, but man, it seems like he's increased that by quite a bit. And I just, with all the talent around the Broncos, I don't understand how they have such a losing record. It's been funny to me a lot of the times to razz my friends, but man, that's a team that is unexplainable to me. Here's what I think is kind of silly though. One thing that I think it could be, I really do think Russ has a kind of a go away heat, if you will, where people don't want to be around him because he's corny. He's cheesy. He's sometimes you might wonder if he's fake because he's just kind of like, oh, hey guys, like everything he says is just so, I don't know, like by the book, and just he doesn't feel like he's in it for the team or anything. He just kind of seems like, hey, it's me, Russell Wilson. Look at me doing high steps on the airplane to show that I don't ever quit, I don't ever stop. Or I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's the worst. I'm going to say cringe because that's what people are saying these days. It was the most cringe video I've ever seen, where he's just doing a TikTok or a YouTube or something. He's like, hey guys, Russell here. Everybody has an alter ego, and I think my alter ego, I had to think what it was, and I'm going to go with Mr. Unlimited. So when you need to go extra, you got to be unlimited. Hey Russ, what do you do when you need to score a touchdown? I need to be unlimited. Like, this is how he starts, like, driving everybody insane. Just like that little bit, I don't want to deal with him. I used to love him, and then I started seeing all the weird, obnoxious quirks that he has. That goes a long ways when you're on a football team. You got a lot of guys in that locker room, 53 to be exact, if I'm correct. But you're gonna have to have some some tightness if you want people to step up and do that extra block for you, if you want the defense to not be upset when you guys get a turnover and still go in and put in the 110% effort, if you want your receivers to run the routes hard every single time instead of just thinking you're going to hold it and throw it away or leave them hanging a drive and get hit, things like that. And I believe that there is a lot of frustration, and I believe that there's a lot of people that don't like Russ. Jerry Jeudy is one of them. He is the prime core that I think has issues with him. I see it on the sidelines. I see that Jerry Jeudy is a very talented receiver, one of the best route runners I've ever seen. His hands could be a little better, but he is definitely showing some frustration. And then today, or I guess I should say yesterday, a slew of tweets came through from all these Broncos players, from Garrett Bowles to Jerry Jeudy to KJ Hamler, all backing up. Three's my guy. Russ is my dude. It's been a frustrating season, but he's the leader in the locker room. Nobody works harder. And it's like, I could see that, like, if it was like throughout the season that they were defending this, throughout the whole season, they should have been defending this. But now it's just a wave of everybody coming in and saying, Russ is our guy. Russ is our guy after the coach gets fired. Makes me think that they had a little locker room talk and said, hey guys, let's be a team or something like that. Make sure everybody gets out there and lets them know that we're united with right behind Russ, the Hall of Famer, the Super Bowl champion, the 9-time Pro Bowler. Like, it seems a little bit forced to me, but that's just me. I don't know where the Broncos go from here. Maybe Russ can turn it around. I don't know what exactly is going on with him, but they aren't getting draft picks to have a chance to get a quarterback or anything like that. The funny thing is where they're losing, and the Rams have been losing with all their injuries, they aren't even going to be able to make up for it with first round picks because they gave them away for quarterbacks. The Lions, who are borderline on the playoffs, the Seahawks, who are borderline on the playoffs, are going to get their picks. So now you got these teams, these up and coming teams with Detroit, who I think has a lot of young talent. And I'm not a Jared Goff guy, even though he's done well. I think that they could, if they could get a quarterback or bolster up that defense a little bit, they could be huge contenders moving forward. Like, there's a bright future there. The Seahawks, I'm not as high on. I think that they do have a lot of good pieces, but I think there's a lot of rebuilding there, which they can do with the Broncos draft picks now. So I'm just saying, like, imagine the Lions win out their next two games. They're a playoff team. They get a little experience, and the Rams lose their last two games. You're getting a top 5 pick. Top 3 picks might be quarterbacks. That means you're getting amazing, like, generational talent linebacker Will Anderson or Javon Carter or somebody. Jalen Carter, defensive tackle of the Georgia. God, I need to be better with my notes. That's why we're getting the rust off here, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me and working through this, because I'm struggling a little bit with my coordination here. What else we want to talk about? College football, a lot of bowl games going on. I love the bowl games. I used to get really excited about them before the playoffs. Ever since then, the bowl games just aren't as important. And this year they feel much, much less important, much less of a real battle of a game as it does more of like a spring football practice, kind of getting the new talent prepped for next season. Because I don't know if you know this, but so many players have decided to go either into the transfer portal or opt out of this game so they can prep for the NFL draft. And I get it. I don't blame them. It's part of the game. I just feel like it is watering the game down a bit. And I don't have a solution for it. I mean, I guess my solution is when we get the 12-team playoff in a couple more years, that might be the solution. I'm okay with that. Sorry, I was showing a little too much skin on my legs there on the video podcast, so had to cover that up a bit. I don't know what the right answer is. The playoffs are going to definitely help, but these bowl games, I don't know how to judge the standard of each game. Like, yeah, that was a great game last night between Texas and Washington. Washington looked dominant. Like, they went for it. I think they probably converted every single fourth down that they were on. They They played strong defense, but here's the catch: is Bijan Robinson, who you guys are all going to know next year in your fantasy football drafts. Unbelievable talent. Didn't play. Running back, borderline Heisman. I'm surprised he didn't get invited to the Heisman voting championship, whatever they call it. The ceremony, excuse me, the Heisman ceremony. I'm surprised he didn't get invited to that, but he sat out. Understandable, but Texas is going to miss him. I think they had 5 defensive starters sitting out, foregoing transfer portals or opting out to the NFL draft. And I don't know if you've ever played football, but when I'm on defense, especially linebacker safeties area, like there has to be a lot of communication. There has to be a lot of chemistry. You have to know when you're playing with that guy, who's going over, who's going under on a cross route. You can't teach that in 3 weeks of practice without any gameplay. Like that's gonna throw off your whole team. And I don't know everybody that sat out for Washington. I tried to find it and I just couldn't find an article, but maybe they had people sit out. But what I'm mostly getting at is it just doesn't mean anything besides a cash grab to me. Or at this point, we're rooting for just our laundry. Like, oh yeah, go red team, go Utes, go Huskies, go Bama. Like, I don't know. It's fine, I guess, but it's not the same. So I'll watch these games, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt, and it doesn't mean much to me. Best games I've watched so far, though, have been Oregon versus North Carolina. Oregon came back and won at the last second. What else did I watch? I liked that Arkansas-Kansas game was close. Shouldn't have been close. All of a sudden, Kansas came back. Another team, Arkansas, did not have any of their defense playing. But yeah, it's just a fun little shootout. I think it went to triple overtime. So things to look forward to this weekend. Saturday morning, you're going to have Alabama versus K-State. I don't know K-State's situation. I know that Bama has a few people in the transfer portal, but their core, excuse me, their core players, Bryce Young at quarterback and Will Anderson at linebacker, are both playing. I just read an article from Nick Saban. He basically was saying that this is one of the funnest teams that he's managed, even though they're not in the playoffs. He's excited that the practices have gone well, that they still seem motivated. Here's a quote from him real quick. When you have guys on your team, sometimes I call them energy vampires. You use all your energy on these guys, trying to get them to do what they're supposed to do. Those are the kind of guys that don't end up playing in bowl games and don't end up doing the best things and make the best choices and decisions for the team and all that, because they have other motivations, which I'm not being critical of. But then Saban said, but this team has really worked hard and done really, really well. And a lot of players on our team have made a significant improvement. It's been one of the most enjoyable bowl practices. So, yeah, I mean, like, for the future, that's going to be great. The bowl game, hopefully it's fun tomorrow. Hopefully both teams show up and bring it. But aside from the playoffs, like, it just seems like all these games are watered down, and it just feels like a cash grab to me. Like, I don't know. I don't blame you for sitting out, because we're not going to remember who won the Tax Act hot dog bowl, Oscar Mayer Wiener Bowl. Like, nobody cares about that. Or, oh, remember that time USC beat Tulsa? Like, it's just, come on. This is getting ridiculous. Too many bowl games that don't mean anything, especially with players not playing. That being said, I'm excited for the people who are excited for this. The people that are Utes fans from my local state, Utah, that are going to the Rose Bowl to support the team. It should be a fun time. I'm excited to talk to Dane, who's going to the game, diehard Utes fan. It'll be really fun. I'm going to take a quick break, and hopefully I will have these guys on here in just a minute. Thanks for hanging out with us on Stabler and Friends too. All right, guys, we are back from the break. Like I said, this show is called Stabler and Friends, and I finally found some friends. We have my boy Justin, my probably most visited person on this show. How you doing, Justin?
It's good to be back, man. It's good to see you, man.
Can you see me? You just got LASIK. Can you see me? Okay.
I can see. And I saw you before, and you were good looking. Now I should have done this years ago, dude.
Oh man, I was worried you'd see the true me and not think I'm pretty anymore. So that makes me feel really good.
It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade, dude. It looks so much better.
And when did you get it done?
I got it done on the 23rd. So
okay, so still a little rough.
Yeah. But dude, I mean, the same day I went back a couple hours later and they said that I was seeing 20/20. So technology is a beautiful thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, dude, it's the best thing I ever did. I go to concerts at like USANA, like an outdoor event or like a sporting event or something. It's like, hey, if the dust blows in my eye, I can just wipe it out. It's not going to ruin my whole show, or it's just like pain, or I have to throw the contact on the ground. So
yeah, I'd gone to Post Malone and I was all the way up at the top, like I was up in like North Dakota and like I couldn't even see him and I was just like, I'm tired of this. Like that was like my moment that I was like, I'm tired. I'm just tired. But that's cool that you got yours done too, man.
Yeah, you got to see Posty and his glorious. You got to see all the tats on the face. And also with us, we have Dane Atkin. Hi, Dane Atkin.
Stabler, Justin, thanks for having me, man. This is a lot of fun. I'm excited to be on with you today.
Yeah, man, for sure. We're happy to have you. So we're having Dane on today, not just because he's a great friend, but also because he is getting to go to the Rose Bowl this year. He also went last year, and I'll give you a little background of Dane. He's an excellent softball player, really funny guy. And he also runs a family business with his wife called Family Freeze Dry. You can buy their freeze dried Skittles and other items. I just know that I love the Skittles down at the Quilted Bear right now. So stop on in by the hot sauce guy. It's by the hot sauce guy, right?
Yeah, an end cap pretty close to him, not too far,
okay.
Not next door, but pretty close.
Oh, okay, my bad. But
you're good, no worries.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I was going to ask you a few things. So you went last year, right?
Yeah. Last year was a fun experience as a Utah fan. It was probably, the biggest bowl game that they'd been to. I did Fiesta Bowl and Sugar Bowl, but when you're playing Ohio State as a Pac-12 champion and you get to the granddaddy of them all, it's something that you have to put on your to-do list. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great time.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Utes put their stamp into being in the Pac-12, like getting the championship, going to the game. They put up a hell of a fight. I know that towards the end there, like they had running backs playing safety and things like that, and that's just super hard. But what was your experience like last year, man? Like, do they do pregame? Do they do tailgate? Like, what do you do while you're out there before the game?
It was pretty crazy. You're in Pasadena. They have the Rose Bowl parade about a mile from the stadium. So the game's at 2:00 California time. They don't even let you park your cars around that area because they're still clearing out the parade until about 11. And so we drove in, traffic jam, hour and a half, just kind of on the side streets looking for some parking. And as you walk around, I don't know if anybody's ever been to the Rose Bowl, but on the north side of the stadium, they have a golf course that they shut down. It's a 36-hole golf course. They shut it down completely, and it turns into a giant tailgate party. So they put cars on there, and I as a golfer, I don't know that I'd ever want to golf on there because who knows what kind of damage that does to the course. But they completely shut it down, and it was a giant party. We had a hard time getting into the game because you're supposed to download your tickets now, right? Put them in your wallet or whatever. So 3 of the people that we went with didn't do that. And so one of our friends actually had to sneak into the game because her ticket wouldn't load on her phone. So
how'd you pull that off?
She's just, I don't know. She's a pro at it. She's like, just watch, I'll just sneak in right behind one of you guys and act like I know what I'm doing. And, she did. And she walked in and nobody knew anything. I was like, well, if this is this easy, I'm just going to not buy a ticket for any games and just come with you.
Yeah, you don't need a ticket.
Unbelievable. So it was fine. It was a great experience. Overall, the game was insane, right? There's a span in the second quarter where there was 5 touchdowns scored in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The atmosphere was great. Ohio State fans did not seem as excited, obviously, as we were. They were hoping for, the playoff last year. Their loss to Michigan put that to bed. A lot of their main receivers weren't playing. Like you said, Utah was banged up. They had Mekhi Bernard playing cornerback, and Jackson Smith and Jigba just showed the weakness that was on the Utah secondary because of it. But overall, you saw the result of the game. It was a shootout and probably one of the best Rose Bowl games in history, to be quite honest with you, if you look back at all the games that have been played.
Yeah, it didn't end the way that I wanted it to, but yeah, definitely a fun game. It's crazy to me, speaking of Ohio State, how much talent they just produce year in and year out. I mean, like they had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson sitting out, who are killing it in the NFL. They're both arguable for offensive rookie of the year. And then that dude that you just said that I can't pronounce, and Marvin Harrison.
Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, yeah. I always get worried trying to pronounce that one. I don't want to get canceled or anything. but yeah, they got a lot of talent. So who are you going with this year?
Oh, Utah for sure.
I mean, like your dad or your.
Oh, sorry, wrong. Right question or right answer, wrong question. Yeah, I'm going down with Dad. Dad lives in Vegas, so as a Christmas present, he's flying me down. Gonna hop in the car with him in Vegas and drive down to the game. So I think it's gonna be a good time.
I see you flying with Southwest. Hopefully not.
No, Delta, man. I don't mess around with that Southwest stuff.
I've heard that is nuts since like Christmas. I've been like reading little things.
Brutal.
They're like out at least till the 31st on a lot of the flights.
Yeah, locally, I don't know if you guys saw it locally, local television station last night did a deal where they were talking to some Southwest customers that were going down to the game, and they said, forget it, we're renting a car and going instead, because we're not even sure if we're going to make it down to Los Angeles on a Southwest flight.
You know what I think we should do is Justin, you got your bus license. Can you drive a bus?
A bus? I do not, but if it sounds like Dane has somebody that is pretty crafty, so it sounds like we could probably get a bus.
Let's make it happen, dude. I mean, if you can drive a Viper, you can drive a bus, no problem, dude. Let's pack them in. Let's get everybody to the Rose Bowl. It'll be our charity, end of the year charity from the Stabler and Friends show.
I say we just take the Viper and load us all of us in it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty of room in the trunk, man. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm behind on the Southwest thing. Are they just canceling flights? Is it still more just employee short? Is that what's going on with that whole deal?
I think most of it had to do with weather over Christmas.
I think I read it was weather, and I think it was also a lot of employees saying like, hey, we're not having these low wages, like give us a raise. And so they did like kind of a strike on a few of them, but I don't know. It's crazy, but Southwest has just been hit the hardest. I think on Christmas, the day after Christmas, they had 70% of their flights canceled, and it's just pushing everybody back that had I mean, those are the biggest days of the year for flying, aside from Thanksgiving. Like it's a lot of people crammed in there trying to get on, fighting for transfers and things like that. So hopefully everybody could get to their destination eventually, but.
Yeah, it looks like weather's not super awesome for everybody that is traveling this weekend either, man. It looks like 15 is pretty gnar. So hopefully everybody driving down gets to get to the game safely.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want your guys' thoughts on these bowl games. I mentioned it on my Facebook, and I've been talking to my dad that like I love football, right? I'll watch any game. Right now I have Maryland on NC State playing right now. I have no fight in that, right? But I'm watching the game, I'm enjoying it, but this year I don't know, so many people opting out and like transfer portals and things like that. I just feel like a lot of these games are watered down, and I don't know like how to take each game, like the Utes, they're an amazing team. I'm glad Cam Rising's playing, but I mean, without Clark Phillips shutting down a corner and having Kincaid, who's going to be probably the top 2-3 draft pick of tight end this year in the NFL, like that's a big blow, right?
Well, and it waters it down a little bit more because you've also got Brent Keithy out at the tight end position for Utah.
Yeah,
picks in the ACL. So now you're going down to Yasmin, which is he's a great tight end, but he's your third option, right? Clark Phillips definitely hurts. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the country. So I think watered down is a little much of a statement, but it definitely affects the games. And I don't like it. If I'm a football fan and let me rephrase that thought. If I'm a college player, I want to go be out there with my team, right? I want to go out there and I want to win the Rose Bowl. Yeah. What's Clark Phillips going to do when Utah wins the Rose Bowl and say, I had no part of it, but we got there because we won the Pac-12 championship game. I understand they're trying to protect their health and whatnot, but the proof is already in the pudding with some of these players that are sitting out. They're going to the NFL, right? If they get injured, if they tear an ACL, it might affect their draft stock a little bit, sure, but they're going to recover. They're going to be just as good as they were before. I don't see the point of sitting out when the likelihood of suffering a career-ending injury is very, very small. I think in the long run, you're right. It affects the bowl games. It makes some of the matchups a little bit less attractive. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't like it. I don't like these stars sitting out.
I was thinking about it too. And like some of the biggest bowl games to me, like most memorable is like seeing an individual like just have an amazing game. Like Ndamukong Suh back in the day with Nebraska. I think he had like
Right.
7 sacks. Like Vince Young against Michigan on the Rose Bowl, like was his coming out party. Like this is before he won the big championship with Texas, but he was amazing. Everybody knew his name after that. Like this is what's fun to me, is like I feel like I get to play like pro scout and watch these players and be like, oh yeah, this guy looks good, things like that. And I feel like I'm missing out on that little bit. And I just, to add to what you said, I'm thinking, I can't think of very many injuries that happen in bowl games or championship games that have genuinely affected people. I mean, I know Jamison Williams for Alabama got hurt last year and he still was a top 11 pick in the draft. He's sitting out this year, but I mean, he's still getting paid well. I think that's probably right where he would have landed in the draft anyways. The only injuries I can think of is like maybe back in the day when the Miami running back was I can't remember his name now. Not Willie McGinnis, but I can't remember his name. But anyways, he tore his ACL on the championship, like on the last play of the game after he scored. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like it makes sense. And I feel like this could actually help your draft stock as opposed to hurting it. Like if you have a big game, you're shooting up that ladder quick.
Right. And let's say you're not a senior too, right? So Clark Phillips is a sophomore this year because of the COVID year.
Yeah.
If he goes in and he breaks his ankle, we're also living in the NIL world. So he's going to come back to Utah next year, all healed up. Let's say worst case scenario that happens, he's still going to be making $1 million a year on NIL money. Yeah. So I understand that the arguments for the players are, it's going to hurt our draft stock and it's my paycheck. But we're living in a world now where these guys are still going to get paid regardless. And some of them are going to get paid more than they probably would on a rookie contract in the NFL.
I think you both touched on it. I think you both hit a nail on the head from a fan's perspective. Of course, I want to see everybody out there. That's what I'm paying for. That's where my money is going. I'm sure they're seeing that little tiny check mark if they do get the injury. That maybe it's going to bump them down or anything. But if in a player, you've got that far. Like, why wouldn't you want to be involved with your team at that point? Like, you've made it all the way. Like, enjoy that moment. That's kind of like that's the finish line. Like, go enjoy it with your team, because the last thing that you want to do is have that moment that you have to look back on and be like, this is full of regret. Not spending the time with your team. They get to be out there and celebrate and share the whole journey up until that point. But as a player, why wouldn't you want to celebrate that with your team?
Absolutely. And even if you're on the sideline with your team as they're playing, right? Yeah, you celebrate the win afterwards, but what plays did you make? How did, I agree with you. I think there would be that level of regret that, oh man, I should have played. Yeah. I think hindsight's going to be 20/20 for some of these guys. And, who knows, 10 years down the road, maybe somebody will get asked, do you wish you would have played? And they probably, I bet you a majority of them would say that they wish they would have played.
Absolutely. I think so too. And I think I like going back to like how I feel like it helped the draft, or I mean, it definitely could hurt it, but I mean, at least like you can see what this player looks like in a big game, in a clutch situation. I think that's how the Jets ended up getting screwed over with Zach Wilson, was the COVID year, and he played a bunch of nobodies, and then they couldn't like bring him in to see his skills and like how he does against real defenses. That he makes that video where he does the rollout 50-yard pass and it looks amazing. But yeah, you can't do that when there's 3 guys in your face and there's 2 defenders over the top. So it's like, I want to see what these kids can do in actual game time myself. But
on the biggest stage too, right? Because when you bring in these big New Year's 6 bowl games and the opponents that you're playing, every team's got their bottom dwellers, right? I want to see what you're going to do versus Penn State versus a Colorado. I want to see what you're going to do, versus an Ohio State versus what you did against, Arizona State, who was down. I want to see what you can do on the big stage, because these bigger schools, especially in the New Year's Six bowl games, have the talent that's going to be going to the NFL. And I want to see how you're going to perform against those guys. So I think you called it a coming out party for one of the players. What happens if Clark Phillips is playing against Penn State and has another hat trick interception game like he did against I think it was, I don't remember who it was the first of the year, but I think it was Oregon State. He had 3 interceptions in that game.
Yeah.
I think ran 2 back for a pick 6. So do that on the national stage and then your draft stock goes up.
I know we focused a lot on Clark Phillips today, but I just want to say that he is probably one of the best corners I've ever seen in college football. And that's trying to be as unbiased as possible. Every time I watch him, he is so shut down. He's so aware where everybody is. He gets his hand on the ball. He is incredible. And to your attest from what we've talked about before, a lot of the media doesn't pay attention to the West Coast games that are late at night. They go to bed and they've already made their AP rankings and they'll check the score in the morning. But checking the score, you're not going to see how amazing Clark Phillips is. And this could be a huge moment for him that could help his draft stock. Like you said, if he gets in there and shows what he can do, everybody's watching these games, right? Everybody.
Right, because I don't think it's going to hurt it. He's got the plays on film already.
Right.
That show how good of a corner he really is. So if he has a, not great game, then so what? It's not going to really hurt his draft stock, I think, if you can prove it. But you're right. We went out to the Utah-Florida game in September of this year, and the game got over about 9:00 Florida time, which is 7:00 here, 6:00 on the West Coast.
Yeah.
None of the other games had even started yet, and nobody even turns on the TV because they just go out and party and shut down and go to bed for the night. So, right. I think I don't want to say it's unfair, but it's unfortunate that a lot of the national media really focuses on that East Coast and doesn't really have the time, want, or energy to stay up and watch some of this Pac-12 after dark stuff that comes on, because some of these games they're phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, you look at the last game of the year between Oregon and Oregon State. That game ended at probably midnight Eastern time. Who stayed up to watch that? I don't know. And they missed out on a huge comeback win, which was very entertaining. It's really disappointing sometimes, but I mean, what can you do?
Yeah. What was the swamp like, man, when you went to Florida?
It was fun, man. It was hot, it was muggy, it was raining, but it was loud. Kind of a dump, if you want me to be quite honest with you. It's an older stadium. You can tell they just paint the concrete and hope it doesn't really fall over. But the atmosphere was great. Florida fans were awesome. They kind of looked at us like we had 3 arms because we're Utah and Mormon and all that kind of stuff. But at least that's the vibe that they put off. But it was fun. It was not the best stadium I've ever been to, but it was worth the price of admission. I'll say that.
Cool. So one of my questions was going to be, what are you going to do this time the same as last time at the Rose Bowl? Is there anything a must you need to do? Are you going to do the parade again? Are you going to tailgate again?
No, I'm not going to do the parade. I don't like parades. And I don't like people. So when you get a parade with 200,000 people sitting along the sides, it gets my anxiety up. But same thing I'm going to do. I mean, there's not a lot to do in Pasadena per se. The Rose Bowl is in a setting between 2 mountain ranges and there's nothing around it. So the only thing you really do is you drive in, you tailgate, and then you get out. So that's going to be the plan. Got a lot of friends and family coming in from out of state, so we'll hook up with them and BS and reminisce and all that stuff that you do when you see family and friends from out of town. But other than that, you go in, you enjoy the scenery, have a nice dinner in Los Angeles the night before, and head over to Pasadena the next day.
I hear the Buffalo Wild Wings out there are great.
Dude, the best food I've ever eaten is Buffalo Wild Wings. Their flatbread pizzas and hamburgers are phenomenal.
You need to flap your wings, man. You need to explore a little bit. It sounds like you're hitting the East Coast and the West Coast, man. There's other places to eat, I promise you that. Dane, I got a question for you though, man. For anybody that's going for their first time, what are some hacks besides sneaking in behind your friends to get into the stadium?
I wouldn't actually recommend that because I'm not sure what the bail money on that's going to be for trespassing if you try to sneak in. But
what would you do? From your experience, what would you recommend to somebody that's going there for their first time? must-sees or like don't do this, do this though? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, I mean, it's really low hanging fruit, right? Like you're in Southern California, you got to check out Disneyland, you got to check out the Hollywood sign, you got to go on the hike to the Hollywood sign. We had a friend, Phil and Kelly went with us last year, and when they got into town, the first thing they did was hiked up to the Hollywood sign and took pictures. And I felt bad that we kind of missed out on that, but they had an excellent time doing that. There's a small town close to Pasadena called Glendale, and we ate dinner in Glendale on New Year's Eve, and it was it kind of reminded me of downtown Ogden. If
cool.
Listeners are familiar with that, a cool 1 mile strip downtown area that had awesome restaurants. It was an awesome scene. Wasn't too busy to the point where if you hate crowds you wouldn't enjoy it, but there was enough people there and good enough food and drinks that people really enjoyed their time. So especially with New Year's being tomorrow night, Saturday night, if you're in town, that's something you got to check out.
Nice. Hell yeah. So when do you head out?
I fly out tomorrow. Yep, tomorrow morning.
Cool.
So and then we'll stay in Vegas for New Year's, and then drive down on Sunday and be ready for the game on Monday.
Nice. What are you doing for New Year's, Justin?
Right now it's gonna be pretty calm and mellow, man. The life of a bachelor. So we'll kind of see what goes on, But yeah, nothing much, man. What you got on the docket?
I got my nephew. I'm going to pick him up here in a second, and him and my neighbor, my bud Kyle, that lives 2 houses away from me. His kid they're like 13 and 14. They're at like that perfect age where like sports are so exciting and like you just idolize them and things like that. So we're watching John Cena fight tonight on wrestling, and then tomorrow we're watching the college football games. Yeah, you're gonna see him on Friday night.
Let's talk about those real quick, man. How fun are those matchups gonna be?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to see how TCU does against Georgia. I feel like I think they've had a lot of big tests. I feel like people kind of shit on TCU a little bit, saying that they didn't really play anybody, but I don't know. The Big 12 is just as good as most leagues, I feel like. So I think that they'll be able to hang with Georgia. Other than Georgia just looks like when they're on, there's no touching them. They're going to beat you by 40, but they've had a few games that have been close where they just seem off. And so I'm excited about that. Or did I get that right? Or am I mixing the games up?
Yeah, they got Michigan.
Oh shit.
But in any event though, you're right. I don't, they have been shit on a little bit, but as a fan, I think it's kind of warranted. I mean, a lot of these wins have had to come from behind, and then you turn around in the Big 12 championship game and you lose to Kansas State. I'm not sure that they're at the level that they need to be to hang in the college football playoff. Now, in a few years when the playoff field expands, I think they get the first 1 or 2 games that they're able to play in. But when you get down to the Final Four, I honestly think that they're probably going to get the wheels blown off them. And when I get into Vegas tomorrow, I'm going to be putting some money towards the Maize and Blue on that one.
Okay. That's so funny. I can't believe I got them mixed up. I was thinking ahead, I guess. That was my prediction, was Georgia and TCU.
Wishful thinking, TCU versus Georgia in the champ.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to think about Ohio State, because they got people sitting now too. Did you guys know that?
And I don't like that, man. Like you're in the hunt for national championship. I don't know. I know we talked about it earlier in the show, but that just riles me up. Like, you've worked this hard. You've been with your team, brothers in arms, so to speak. And then all of a sudden you just decide not to play. I get it if it's the, Bahamas Bowl on December 15th, like that doesn't bother me. But when you're fighting for a national championship, you've got to play.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, we have about 3 minutes left. Justin, I'll let you wrap it up, brother. And I do want you guys back on the show next week after the Rose Bowl's over, so we can talk about it. But I also have a homework for you guys. Find out who the coolest bowl game mascot is. So far, I've seen Sir Chedward from the Cheez-It Bowl mascot, and now this Duke Mayo guy that has these crooked eyes, and he's just a mayo jar. So, all right, finish us off, Justin. What you got?
Well, not so much me finishing off, but I've been reading some beef online, man. I just want Stabler and Dane to get this resolved right now. So I'm going to be Dr. Phil for the moment, but I need you to I need you two to get this thing figured out. Where's the disagreement lie, and how can we come to a compromise on
All right,
this?
so we're gonna leave this as a bit of a cliffhanger because I don't have the money for pro right now. So we got 2 minutes to give a little cliffhanger. So basically, I think I started the shit talking. Would you agree with that, Dane? Just
Yeah, when we went down to Florida and I posted something, you definitely kicked it off.
kicked it off into gear. I believe that the SEC is the most dominant. I feel like my players that I could mention in the NFL that are doing big things all back it up. I think that the recruiting class every year can back it up. But Dane thinks otherwise, and he thinks that the Pac-12 is right compared to him, and that the SEC is overrated. And where I do feel like at times the SEC gets the benefit of the doubt for like playoff tiebreakers, things like that, I think that there's a reason why that it's justified. Dane, what are your thoughts? And then
So my thought is, and I use this term with you multiple times, that the SEC is a self-fulfilling prophecy. They don't travel very far for away games. They play patsies, so to speak. I'm sorry for the, Liberties and all those guys that they beat up on and whatever, call them names, but they don't really. I feel like they hide behind the shield that we're the SEC. We're just going to play in the SEC. We don't have to worry about anybody else. You guys come to us. I think that they are the best football conference. I will say that, but I do not think that they're. I told Stabler I was not going to use this word. They are not elite compared to other conferences because everyone's got their top 3 or 4 teams and everyone's got their bottom dwellers. But I'd love to see an Alabama come out and play an Oregon. I'd love to see a Tennessee come out and play Utah. Florida's coming out to Utah next year, and we'll see what happens there. So I just think they kind of protect themselves to protect the name, and that's where they get a lot of their payoff. Is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're the best. We're going to be the best. We're going to tell you we're the best, and then our best 1 or 2 teams are going to win the championship every year.
For sure. Yeah. So we are out of time on that. We're going to wrap it up with that. We'll cliffhanger it. I hope to have you guys on next week. We can talk a little bit more when we have some more time. Have a great time on your trip. Justin, always good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah. And I did tell
Dane
that I was gonna edit towards it. I was gonna clip this to saying that SEC is elite, and you just gave me the word elite. So now
I gave it to you. Do it, and if I hear it, it's gonna add more ammo to the fire for next week. Can we go?
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to Stabler and Friends, and thank you guys for coming on. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
See ya.